Hi, I'm Pollyanna from Lightspeed Sports Recovery. So today what we were going to look at were those of you that have problems with your hamstrings. So you might find that they cramp up, or you're getting tweaks when you're running or when you're playing hockey and various things like that. So the key thing with this is it's not usually actually hamstrings that are the original problem. It's probably your glutes, which is your butt muscles here. So it tends to be that your glutes are underactive, especially if you participate in sports like cycling, hockey, rowing, because they all are in bent over positions. So your glutes, if you're in this sort of position all the time, aren't going to be activating as much as when you are able to stand upright like I am now. So the majority of the exercises are actually going to be focused on your glutes and trying to get your glutes activated and strengthening them. And by doing this, this takes the load off your hamstrings and they then don't get as grumpy. So I'm going to take you through some exercises. The first exercise to do, you can do this lying down or you can do it standing up. And it's just a straight leg, taking the leg straight back. You want to make sure you engage your glutes, so clench your butt muscles before you do this, and then take the leg straight back and then back to normal. So it's just back and back to normal. You want to do about 10 probably on each leg, making sure that each time you relax the glutes, then clench, and then take the leg back. And this will just get the glutes activating before your hamstrings do, because quite often our hamstrings activate before our glutes do. And this is what's causing the issues and actually making their job a little bit harder. So other exercises you can do is just getting down onto all fours, and you can start off just by doing the legs. So from there, just make sure that you draw up through your abdominals, draw the shoulder blades down and together. Make sure you've got your knees hip width apart and the hands shoulder width apart. All you're going to do from here is just take that leg out, straighten it, keeping that hip nice and level. We don't want to dip down like that, keeping it nice and level. Bring it back in and then switch to the other leg and then bring it back in. To make it harder, you can take the opposite leg to arm out. So this starts incorporating your slings as well, so it makes it a little bit harder. So just bringing it there. You want to keep again that pelvis nice and level. You want to take that leg to about hip height when you take it out and then bring it back in. So again, looking at 10, 15 on each side, you can gradually build this up as you go. So a variation you could do on this to strengthen is to do small holds and to also do little circles while keeping that pelvis nice and level. So you can see that that's working it. Remember to change the direction as well. And then just relaxing it back down. So that's something that you can vary the amount that you do, so you can hold it for longer and just increase that gradually as you get stronger. So those are some really nice basic ones to start with. The next thing is to go onto shoulder bridges, and this is a key one that a lot of people get given for glute exercises. So for this, you're going to lie on your back, have your feet again hip width apart. You're going to, from there, have the head down as well. You're going to tuck the tailbone under, and you peel each segment of your back off the floor bit by bit until you've got a nice straight line from the knee, hip to shoulder. And then you're going to breathe in, exhale and roll back down, but you start with the top of the back, then the lower back, and then bring that pelvis into neutral. The key thing here is that when you tuck under, you really need to clench the butt muscles and get those activating and bringing them up. Once you're up here, you can do variations. So you've got ones where you can hold it and you can do heel lift. So you lift one heel, keeping that pelvis nice and level, and you just maintain that. The next level would be to straighten the leg. You can bring it into what we call tabletop, which is that position, and stretch it out again and bring it back down. So keeping that pelvis nice and level, stretching it out, bringing it back and back down. So that would be a more advanced level than the heel raises. The next one, which would be the next level up, would be to start with one leg straight on the ground. Go breathe in, exhale, you do exactly the same movement but with one leg straight, keeping that pelvis nice and level, and then coming back down again. Then switch, or you can maintain it and do it all on the same side. Look at about 10 on each side, and that should work it. you might find to begin with when you're doing those exercises that your hamstrings get quite grumpy with it. But as your glutes get stronger, you'll find that will probably get better. So those are some really basic ones there. And that works your overall glutes. We're now going to focus on one that will work your glute medius and minimus, which is the ones that are on the up here. And some people get them they can be quite sore for people. So for this is a classic exercise called a clam. So a clam is side lying, bring the arm up above your head, rest your head on it. You can get yourself a pillow just to keep your spine better in alignment. You want about a 45-degree bend at the hip, 90 at the knee, so the feet, when you look at them, are directly below your hips. You're then going to lengthen through that top hip, so you lift through that waist, and you should get a bit of a gap between you and the floor. You then float your lower legs off the floor. Breathe in, exhale, float that knee up, and then inhale to bring it back down. So it's exhale to float up, inhale to bring back down. You can have your hand on the floor to help balance. Otherwise, place your hand on your hip. Now your hand shouldn't move when your leg comes up. If you find you're rolling back like that, then you're not doing the exercise properly. So really engage that core, lifting up. You should feel it through this area. So once you've done sort of maybe 15 to 20 of those, you can then move on to another exercise, which is quite good to do afterwards, which is a knee tap. So tap the knee down and bring that foot up, then bring the feet back together and just work through this. And again, so do 10 to 15 of these until you feel it, basically. You want to feel these exercises. The next one to add to that is then to keep the knee up and kick that leg out. Bring it back and then down. So it's a clam with a leg extension. And if you do all of these in a row, you'll feel it. To begin with, you might find that you need to separate them into different exercises and gradually build. But if you really want to work them hard, don't have a break. Okay, and you would do those as well. So again, 10, 20 of those. Just give that thigh a little bit of a rub afterwards, just to loosen it off. And then another exercise, staying in this sort of position, you're going to straighten your legs. You bring your feet in front of you, so you should be able to see your feet quite easily. You pull the toes up because this will help with your balance. You're still lengthening through that top hip, so you're lifting through that waist. You're going to breathe in, exhale, and you float that leg to hip height. Breathe in, exhale, and you kick that leg forward, and then inhale to bring it back. So it's exhale to kick forward, inhale to bring it back. Keeping that upper body nice and still. So you don't want to see the shoulder moving backwards and forwards to counterbalance. Should be nice and still. Again, look at doing 10 to 20 of these. And then from there, go into some side raises. And again, this is all working through this area again. Again, you can do sort of 10, 20 of these as well. And then you're going to hover at hip height and you can do some circles. Again, combining these exercises one after another without a break is a really good way, and reverse the direction of doing it. So those are some basic ones to get your glute medius firing. So these are the higher ones, as I said earlier. It's nice to do them all at once you've got used to doing them, and to progress yourself a little bit further. And that will you will really feel it when you do it properly. Remember to do both sides. I've obviously only demonstrated one side, but you'll find one side better than the other as well. So really work on the side that you're finding more difficult, because that's probably the hamstring that's giving you more problems. So those are some of the basic exercises you can do. Other exercises you can do are like squats. You can add bands into squats. When you're doing the clams, you can add bands around your knees to make it a little bit harder as well. But this is stuff that you can do without any equipment, which is quite nice. And if it's a sunny day like today, you can wrap up warm and do it outside as well and get some nice fresh air. So a key thing as well, which is really important when you're actually trying to strengthen up through your glutes, is stretching off your hip flexors. Hip flexors in those sports that I mentioned earlier, like rowing, cycling and hockey, can get tight and contracted. And we need to basically stretch these off so that the glutes can actually activate better. So you want to incorporate this stretch that I'm going to show you now into like everyday stuff. So not just at the end of your training sessions, but perhaps like in the morning when you get up. It'll just really help with your pelvic alignment as well. So the key for this is get something soft underneath your knee if you're on a hard surface. This luckily is quite nice and soft because we've had so much rain. You're going to come into a kneeling lunge, as I'd call it, keeping this body upright, keeping the pelvis facing forward. You're going to lunge forward. You're going to clench your butt muscles at the same time, and you should feel it in the leg that's furthest away from the camera, and this should feel a stretch going through. You might feel it in your quads as well, which is a good quad stretch too. If you want to add, you can add a side bend as well. I'll just swap legs so you can see it from that side. So from there, keeping that pelvis nice and level, stretch through, keeping nice and upright. You're then going to add that side bend, and that gives you a little bit more of a stretch. Make sure you hold it for about 30 seconds on each side. Most stretches you want to hold for that duration of time. So that's a really important stretch. If there's anything you do stretch-wise, that is the one to do. Don't need to have to actually worry about stretching off your hamstrings so much, especially if you've just injured it or strained it or something like that. Don't actually stretch it. It's better to just let it rest, give it some massage, and then get some strength exercising in. So those are predominantly our glute ones. So if you really want to actually start working on your actual hamstring strength as well, which some people do actually need to do. So you've got various ones. The hardest ones would be Nordic hamstring curls, which I can't demonstrate today because you actually need someone to hold your legs, and as we are currently on lockdown, I can't obviously get someone to do that at the moment for me. But you can Google it or YouTube it. There'll be tons of things. You basically have someone holding your legs. You start off in this sort of position and you go straight down into a press up position and then come back up. It's really quite a hard exercise for your hamstrings, so it's something to build up to. And you can change it so you can actually come up with your arse first, which will make it an easier exercise. So there are variations to do. To start with though, a really good exercise is straight leg, stiff leg deadlifts. It's a little bit of a mouthful to say. You can do them double-legged or on single. So if you started off, basically what you want to do from there is straight legs, just gently bend through the knees. And from there you're keeping straight and you're just going to come down and you basically touch the floor and then back up. You can do this with weights. If you've got any kettlebells, a bag of sugar if you don't have actually any weights, a book, anything like that. So it's as though you're putting it down on the ground and then you're going to come back up. So if you're going to do single legs, you literally just take one leg off, gauge that core, you're going to come down, you're going to touch the floor and then back up. Again, you can do this with weights as well. Doing sort of 15 to 20 on each leg will really help. The advantage as well of the single leg work is that it works everything down your leg. So if you've got ankle problems, knee problems, hip problems, it will help with all of that. So you're just coming down, touching the floor and then back up. So it's a lovely exercise to do. Start off with no weight and then gradually increase it to having weight as well. So those are some key exercises that you can use to get your hamstrings working better and happier, getting your glutes activating so that your hamstrings don't overwork. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, then please do get in touch with me. You can either find me on Instagram at Lightspeed Sports Recovery or Facebook, or email me on Pollyanna at lightspeedsportsrecovery.co.uk. Anyway, thank you very much.